Yep. Line your back. And let me tickle your tummy. I tickle your tummy. I tickle your tummy. I tickle your tummy. I've got a cat that lies on his back for his tummy to be tickled. Yeah, he thinks he's a dog. Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, yeah. He goes to sleep. He's like this sort of polite whore. He lies with his back legs right apart like this, and then his front paws do this, and it's like the ultimate mixed message, isn't it? Yes, they're gorgeous. Their poses are so amazing. Anyway, so lie on your back. You can lie in, like a dog, like however you like, for a moment. So I give you the illusion that you have a choice. So we're going to begin a series of ATMs. You think, why would you begin a series of ATMs at 10 to 4 on a Friday? Because we can, actually. And I want to sow a seed in your system and leave you with something. If we recap over the week where we started off with a very, potentially the most basic of the complex functions that we do as a human being, which is sucking. And then we moved into the flexion stuff, so that bending and folding business. And then the extending, which is the opening out from the bending. And then when we started to do all these rolling movements, they use sort of you can see the pattern of the alternate flexing and extending, and introducing the idea that you've got sides. So the movement started off somewhat symmetrically, which is pretty much exactly what you expect in a typically developing baby. And then when they start to differentiate one side from the other, the movements become asymmetrical, so that one side can fold and one side can lengthen and then alternate. And that's how we start to move. We start to introduce an asymmetry to take us off balance. And then we can transition between one position and another with more or less control. So we're going to finish the week with this hint of coming further away from the floor in that developmental sequence. So we've been rolling around in kind of a very horizontal, or in Kwan's kind of brought up to this transverse plane, the plane of the floor. And now if you roll up to sitting, the sitting posture affords you more freedom of movement, right? Because you're not so pinned to the floor and you're not so stable. So please sit side sitting so that your right leg is bent sort of more behind you. Your right foot is behind you and your left foot is in front of you. So that's it. Oh, you all know how to do side sitting. Okay. And find somewhere behind you with your left hand where you can rest on your hand. Now, this is a Goldilocks moment where you don't want to rest too much on your left hand. If you move your left hand quite a long way away and you really lean on it, like you give a lot of weight to your left hand, you can feel like your left hand your wrist is going to start protesting. However, we want your left hand to become a bit of an axis, so it's part of it. So find a way where it's not too far away, it's not too close so that it blocks you, it's just right. So find that point where you imagine that the just right is. And of course, feel free to keep adjusting to that. This is, I wouldn't say it's a ubiquitous ATM, but it's common. It's heading towards ubiquitous, meaning heading towards infamy. Another word, infamy, heading towards frequently known, frequently used, common. Yes, common. Why didn't she say common then? Because words are so nice. They're so nice. Ubiquitous is a great word. My son used it the other day. It's an IT term. There's a version of the internet that's ubiquitous. And I sort of looked at him. This is terrible, isn't it? I went, how do you know the word ubiquitous? Isn't that rude? I'm actually not a very good parent. Anyway, he just laughed at me. All right, so shut your eyes and just sit for a moment and feel this movement. And then bring your arm up above, in front of you. All right, so this is, you can see why I really wanted to clarify the direction. So in front of you, you're going to bring your arm up and allow your elbow to bend. So it's like your upper arm is going forward away from you, and then your lower arm is still horizontal to the floor, but it's in front of you. And have it high enough so that when you open your eyes, you're looking over the top of your hand. And let your wrist just dangle. Let it just drop. And now your eyes, so your eyes are now open, and they're kind of connected to looking over your hand as if they're kind of locked in, gently locked in. You know, Feldenkrais locked in, which is very benevolent kind of locked in. Now quietly, slowly, gently, turn this complex, your eyes and your hand, to the left, up to the point where you feel like if you went any further, you would have to increase the effort. And be very precise about this, like no compromise, be absolutely exacting. And if it's a few millimeters of movement, that's very honest, right? So be really demanding and say, imagine that you are so precious. You know, you are the most precious crystal, and you do not want to compromise your integrity by going any further, by pushing any force on it. And it's a bit like pushing a tea towel into the most precious of your wine glasses. You do not go beyond soft. Otherwise you'll break it. I'm just telling you, if you come to my house. I have none of those glasses left because all my friends are klutzes. And now when you get to the point where that is, look there and look beyond your hand, so you can focus on your hand to practice that soft, close focus, and then look beyond it as far away from you. And what is that point? That point that's beyond your hand, where your eyes are now. Your eyes are in the middle of your sockets. And then come back to the middle and just rest your right arm for a bit. Now, when we do a lesson like this that is common, aka ubiquitous, how do you do it in a way that it's for the first time? You know, what do you do in your mental state to kind of background the history, your experience? You can't get rid of your experience. You can't ignore it. You know, you can't wipe your memory and say it didn't exist, something didn't happen. How do you just gently put that experience to the background and see, how is this today? How can I be in this moment today and do this movement as if it's for the first time? This is a way to really refresh your partnerships in life too. Just putting it out there. Just a little suggestion. Anyway, come back to that position if you hadn't moved. And now shut your eyes and let's compare. Do the same movement with the same kind of attention to quality. Find that place where you think, oh, I think, no, that's just pushing the tea towel too much into the wine glass. I'm not prepared to do it. With your eyes closed. So your eyes and your hand are now linked kinesthetically. Go to that place that you feel in your body, your whole system, and then stop there and open your eyes. Look at your hand, look at the distance. Is it the same spot as the one that you did when your eyes were open or not? Is it further? Is it less far? Is it exactly the same? Whatever it is for you. And in ATM, we call these little things like a reference movement. And you keep coming back to it to see if it changes. So we set up something really concrete, or as concrete as possible, so that you can track your change, i.e. track your learning. Because remember, learning, we can't measure learning. All we can do is measure if a behavior changes, we can infer learning has happened. Now, those technical motor learning theorists in the room will say it's only performance. Shut up. talk about that some other time. Okay. So come back, rest your right arm. Now, depending on your organization, some people it's really easy to have your arms stay up here like this. Other people, it's a real effort. No judgment, it's just your organization will reflect, you know, your training and the way you hold yourself. So if you find your arm gets tired, put it down and rest for a minute. I'll carry on regardless, and I'll give you rests sort of in a generic way, but don't hold your arm up and make your shoulder sore just because I haven't said rest your arm. Okay, so now we'll continue with your eyes closed. And lift your arm up again. Have that kind of loose, comfortable relationship between your eyes, your closed eyes and your hand. So this is the felt experience of where your eyes are. And your eyes are closed, but imagine that you're looking across the top of your hand to this horizon. So we've kind of got this idea that we are tracking around the horizon, if you like. That's kind of a bit of a meta theme up here. And this time, go to that place, go to the spot, we'll call it, where you feel that the effort changes. And pause there. When you're there and you pause there, now leave everything there, but turn your head back to the right and then to the spot, and do that several times. So it's kind of like all of you is frozen in action, but your head with your eyes is going back to the left and then back to the spot. To the right, yep. And then returns to the left to the spot. You know, where you made that decision about the ease. Now, if you've done that a few times, then you can return your whole caboose to the neutral, as it were. So we're at the starting position. You can rest your arm a little bit. And then return to see where the spot is. And now what may happen is, of course, the spot changes, because it's not like it's a spot in the position sense. It's a spot where the effort changes, where the quality changes. So go to that, so that kind of, what they call it, there's a certain thing in a movement where the axis keeps changing position, not a fixed axis. I think what it is. The knee joint is an example. It doesn't matter. Okay, go to the spot where you feel the quality is you no longer want to compromise. Stay there. This time, keep your closed eyes on the hand there, and take just your head back to the right and go back and forth between your head turning to the right and the spot. However, your eyes stay on the spot. So this should be somewhat familiar to you. You see how layered these lessons are. This is the unique aspect of Amherst, this layering of lessons. And then go back to the middle and do the whole movement again a few times. And has it made a difference or not? This differentiating of the eyes and the head. Good, leave it and rest on your back. And of course, we've got another reference, haven't we, to track change, and that's your state of being lying on the floor. So you've been turning to the left, and your left arm has been extended and your right arm is flexed, and you're turning around yourself So what influence does that have on you, on your right side, on your left side? What's your sense of middle? Come up to sitting. Sit in that position where you're on your left side sit, so your right foot's behind you. So same position. And you find that place where your left arm can take a little bit of weight and not too much and not too little. So it's not superfluous, it's not unnecessary, but it's not carrying all of the load. That may be different now. And bring your arm up in that position in front of your eyes and take your eyes and your hand around to the left. Eyes closed, probably best. So everything goes as far as you feel is lovely. And I'm kind of equating lovely with no major investment in hard work. And become aware of your right sit bone, your right hip joint. So this inclusive attention, which may have been quite exclusive around eyes and head and arm, could you broaden it to be inclusive of the right hip, the right side of your pelvis, the right sit bone, that part of your pelvis that you sit on? And is there any life in that area, or is it dead as a dodo? And are you breathing? Good reminder. So let me give you a suggestion, is maybe that right sit bone is moving away and towards the floor. When? You figure it out. I'm not going to give you everything. So if that, whatever happens to the right sit bone, what happens to the left sit bone? Okay, and then next time you go around to the left, open your eyes and check where your spot is now. Oh, spontaneous action of rotation. That's what I was thinking of. It's a changeable axis of rotation. Anyway, doesn't matter. Just wanking on. All right, how's your spot? Because I'm spinning the room. It's an illusion. You're in a merry-go-round, inside the merry-go-round. Come back and just rest. Your left arm needs a rest, your right arm needs a rest. Whatever of you needs a rest, rest. And again, you're getting this idea that the information that you get from your bits that tells you I need to rest is really good feedback. It's not a thing to be groaned about. It's like, oh, okay, interesting feedback. My left wrist is sore. I forgot to pay attention to it. I was putting a lot of weight on it. Very interesting. Or you could go, oh, my left wrist sore, and you could burst into tears, and you could come up and I have to put a Band-Aid on it because it's a nasty boo-boo. I think you're getting the point about our view of mistakes. They're really interesting. Okay, come back to the left side sitting position again. And put your right, so leaning on your left hand in a way that is kindly. And put your right hand on the top of your head. So you spend a bit of time thinking about and sensing the top of your head this morning, so you know where it is. And very gently, with your right hand, could you side bend your head so that your left ear goes a little bit towards your left shoulder? Another plane of movement. Someone wanted us to go there on Tuesday and I wouldn't let us. This is side bending. And again, notice what you notice first. What's the most apparent? So this idea about your left ear going in the direction of your left shoulder. Now, in this relationship, is the left ear moving more or the right or the left shoulder moving more? Who's going towards who the most? So if your left shoulder is doing all the movement and the left ear is doing all the movement and the left shoulder is just kind of waiting there, well, that's one kind of relationship, right? Where one person's doing all the work. Could you reverse the relationship where the left shoulder is now doing all the work? So the left ear kind of waits for the left shoulder to come and say hello, give it a bit of a smooch, if you like, if it's that kind of relationship. And then could it be the kind of relationship where they're both coming towards each other and then away? So it's kind of equitable. And, you know, they're all valid relationships. It's just a question, do you know what the relationship is? That's when we've got no judgment in those three explorations. You just know that that's the nature of the relationship. Who's doing all the running, as it were. And then broaden your attention to what's happening to your right hip joint and your left hip joint and your right ischium and your left ischium and the right side. You know, the ribs on the right side and the ribs on the left side. Ischium is the sit bone, sorry. Sit bone. Sitting bone. And for a lot of people, that where the sitting bone is a little bit vague at the moment. And that's fine. Be happy with the vague if you can. Good. Then bring your right hand in front of you and find your spot. See where it is now. And breathing. So breathing is part of finding the spot, isn't it? Where I'm still comfortable to breathe. Good. Leave it, lie on your back and rest. So babies, what's it like to be sitting up and looking at the horizon? You know, think back to Monday when you were sucking on the floor and then flexing and extending and rolling over and finding your side, and now you're up sitting. What's that experience of leaving the floor? It's not quite as, you know, traumatic as leaving the womb, but, you know, entering the world. So this time come up to sitting anyway and just sit and really, what's it like? Like really, you know, what's the difference? What's that kind of deep, deep, deep difference between sitting and lying? We're not going to do the movement anymore. So you can just sit. And then come up to standing. So you are, you know, highly developed babies that just come straight up to standing and walking. And what's the influence of that turning to the left and then back to the middle? So you are turning to the right, but you're only going to the middle. It's the equal and opposite sort of thing. What's the influence of that in standing? And some of you are already trying it. What does it mean if you wanted to turn? So if you wanted to look at the person behind you, would you go via the left? Would you go via the right? And for some people, you know, who love going to the right, this might equal them up so they can, left is not quite so tricky. Others, this goes with your pattern, so you go even more to the left. I can't tell. And that's why, you know, as Feldenkrais practitioners, we have to stay pretty humble because we can't tell. We don't know what your experience is. Falling to the right, yeah. So, for some people, doing everything to the one side actually improves the other side. And again, as a practitioner, you can't necessarily predict that. It's a very humbling technique because, you know, the learning is really occurring in a black box. So if you're a power freak, I suggest you go and do myofascial release or something else where you know what's going to happen. Nothing wrong with myofascial release. You just know what's going to happen, more or less. And then walk. And then as you walk past me, I'll give you a little piece of paper. You can go back to your mat. And if you try and read it while I'm talking to you, I'll make fun of you. Yeah, it's graduating already. Nope, I don't know. So this is the beginning of an experiment. Sorry, cat. You're so orderly. So nice. So we haven't got these translated into any other language. So I think, go back to your mat, I think I hinted at this the beginning of the week. And I thought about this all week, and I finally decided on Wednesday that I'd leave it till today to give to you. Because what we're anticipating is, you know, 24 different ways of responding to this. So this training in Australia, it wouldn't surprise you actually to hear that in Australia we are, I'm not saying, as soon as I'm forming the words in my head, I think, God, that sounds American. We are very innovative in the way we run training programs in Australia. And we have always been trying new things. You know, Melbourne 4, Julian, Zoran and I did team teaching, had never done before, and, you know, this, that and the other. And then the online stuff's been quite new, and lots of different things, and that sort of self-evaluation. So each training program, we're trying to evolve and develop and trying to take in the aspects of the changing world. Because if we just stuck with, you know, we could stick you all in front of Amherst with a dummy in your mouth, but Amherst was 1980 and 81. So what would you learn? You'd learn a lot about what happened in 1881, not in the context of 2017. So here's something that's happened in the world since 1980-81, and this is this idea that there needs to be a better more of refined articulation of what you're learning here in this program. So for some of you, there may be a reaction to these words, this formal kind of document in a table with columns and headings, you may want to rip it up. Right? It might plummet you to somewhere that we don't know about, that you will run screaming from the room. Others will go, oh, thank God. There's some rigor in this. And breathe a sigh of relief. And then in between, there'll be supreme indifference. There might be fear, there might be anxiety, there might be nothing, there might be everything. So just like I was saying, I don't know necessarily what your response to the dead bird, which is the name of that, the beautiful name of that lesson. That's the dead bird, that one. We've talked about this, like this competencies document. We don't know what your responses are going to be. So what we've decided to do with this idea is to run it like an ATM or an FI. And we want to kind of co-design this process with you, using this idea of feed forward and feedback. So I've talked a lot about it, not actually said what it is. What's competence mean to you? If I said you're competent, what does that mean to you?